Let me begin the recording. Okay. So, how are you all doing this morning?
Pretty fine.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, let's begin because I can have this meeting for 40 minutes only. And I'll also upload a recording of this session on Moodle so that those people who have missed this session, they can also see and take advantage of our conversation. Like they can also find the answers of questions that you may ask and it may help them. All right, so let's begin. I have so far with me Kamran, Alina Mozam, Maria Manis, Ramin, Wahid, Safa Zahid, Sakha, Zafar, and Laiba Kesser. All right. And I have Aisha Abbas, who has just joined. All right. So have you all watched the lectures that I uploaded last week and read the notes as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. So I'll tell you very briefly. Let me briefly summarize what we did last week. Before the college was closed on Tuesday, I gave you a lecture which was related to what was that? Excuse me. There is another one. Actually, I'm allowing people to admit. Give me a week. Give me a minute. Okay. Uh, okay. Now I have almost 10 to 11 participants. I can begin. Okay. So let me summarize very briefly what we did. Excuse me. Okay, let me summarize very briefly what we did last week before the college was closed because of the rising cases of COVID-19. I gave you a lecture which was related to stimulus response model. And we actually began our conversation related to the effects model of communication, which means we started talking about how researchers and scholars study different effects of mass communication, and on the basis of that, what sort of models they have developed so far. So the first model that we discussed was stimulus response model, which says that in order to get a response, there has to be a stimulus. So we had discussion on this model on Tuesday, and then university was closed. So for the next class on Thursday, I uploaded my lectures related to another model, which is related to effects of mass communication. And that model is known as two-step flow communication model, which says that instead of having the flow of communication in just one step, information actually goes in two steps. First, it goes to opinion leaders, people who are active users of media. From them, it goes to audience who are little less active. So this was two-step flow model of communication that we discussed. And this week, actually, we will begin our conversation, our discussion. I'll upload lecture related to diffusion of innovation model. This is what we are discussing this week. We are doing this week. I am uploading lectures. Sorry, I am recording lectures related to diffusion of innovation, and you will get them on Moodle by tomorrow or by the day after tomorrow. With that, I will also upload um, of course, PowerPoint presentation, a copy of PowerPoint presentation, and a copy of PDF notes that you can read. Now, let me tell you about assessment, which I think is the most important part. If you remember from your course outline, it is mentioned that in sixth week, this is the sixth week of semester, you will take an exam wherein you will have to write a personal reflective note. So you will get that exam by the end of this week, and I will give you at least a week to submit your assignment on Moodle. And that exam is going to for that exam, I highly recommend that you carefully watch the recorded lectures related to diffusion of innovation that I will upload by tomorrow or by the day after tomorrow. And you also pay attention to effects model of communication. So what I am going to do is I am going to give you two questions, and of course you will have choice. You can do any question of your choice, and I will ask you to answer one question, and you will have to write a personal reflective note related to that. And when you are done, I'll ask you to submit your assignment on Moodle. Let me admit a couple more students. I'll ask you to submit your assignment on Moodle, and along with the questions you will also get a detailed rubric that will have details of what you are supposed to do and how I will evaluate your work. Now I will let you ask questions if you have any. Okay, Laiba is asking me that she cannot hear me properly. Can you hear me now, Laiba? Okay, very good. Laiba, I was just telling my students about the assessment. I have said that, as you know, that we have just started the 6th week of semester, and for the 6th week, I was supposed to give you an exam. For the exam, you will have to write a personal reflective note, reflective essay, which will be worth 20 marks. For that, I will give you two questions, and you can choose any question, any one question of your choice. And you will write a detailed personal reflective note on that. When I give you the questions, when I give you the exam, that will have all the details related to the rubric, how I will evaluate your work. That will also have details related to how long your answer should be, and like all of those things. So if you have any question, please ask me now. Or if you have any questions related to the content that we discussed, that we covered last week, it was stimulus response theory, and the other one was two-step flow model of communication. If you have any question related to that, please feel free to ask me. Did you all see lectures related to two-step flow model of communication? Hello, are you all with me? Okay, you did. Very good. Laiba says that she did. Alina says that she did. Um, Laiba Ehsan has the question, how much time will you give for assessment? Beta, I will ask you to write a personal reflective essay, and I'll give you 5 to 6 days to write that, to work on that assignment. It's like an assignment. Okay. Sakha Zafar has this question, what will be the word limit? When I give you the question paper, when I send you the paper, it will have all the details, like how long should be your answer. Uh, Probably for each question, you can write an answer which is 300 to 500 words long, if that answers your question. So there can be two types of exams. Either I can give you two questions and I'll ask you to attempt any two out of them, or I may give you four questions and I may ask you to attempt any two questions out of that. Or it can also happen that I give you a question which is of 10 marks, and I give you another question which is of 5 like short notes of 5 minutes. So there can be all sorts of things. I haven't planned the exam yet, but I will give you more details when I plan it. You will get the exam by the end of this week. And of course, if you have questions, we will have our next virtual session coming Tuesday. You can ask me now. Yes, total marks will be 20. Yes, Zamreen. Excuse me. Any problem? Are you okay? All right. Okay. So I am essentially here to take your questions if you have any related to the two-step flow model of communication. And those students who attended, who actually watched the recorded lecture for stimulus response theory, they can ask me questions as well. I especially wanted to ask Laiba Ehsan because I know that Laiba is entirely studying this semester online. And Laiba so far has been watching recorded lectures only. So, Laiba, do you have any problem related to any of the content that we have done so far? Laiba Ehsan, are you with me, Laiba? Right now, I don't have any problem. Very good. Who else was studying the semester online? And I mean, before the college was closed. I know Laiba was studying it online entirely. Who else? Uh, Anyways, okay, very good. When I sent you the PDF notes, I sent you the annotated copy, which means the copy that had my annotations. I don't think if I added comments anywhere, but I did highlight the content, and that should help you uh, for your better understanding. Was two-step flow model of communication easy? Okay, maybe Laiba is saying yes, the notes were highlighted. Very good. So I'm asking you, was the two-step flow model of communication easy? Did you find it easy or was it difficult? Very good. I'm glad to hear that. Laiba is writing that the notes were highlighted and they added more to the understanding. I'm glad to hear that. That was the purpose. That is why I sent you. Zamreen found two-step flow model of communication easy. So did Alina. So did Laiba. Very good. It means I have done a good job. Everything was clear. Very good. Right now, all of your cameras are off, and to me, it seems like I am talking to a machine. I don't see anyone's face, and that's kind of a bit uncomfortable, but that's okay. If you don't want to turn on your cameras, I understand that sometimes you may not have good internet connection at your end. I understand that, Laiba. I understand. And that is why I came to my office, because my internet connection is also not very stable and it has been poor lately. So for that reason, I thought, okay, I'll go to my office and I'll do the virtual session from there. Sure, Zamreen, I understand that. That's okay. Now, I will have virtual sessions every Tuesday to have student teacher interaction. And I highly recommend that before you come to the virtual session of this class, you should have watched all the recorded lectures from the previous week, and you should have read your notes. You should have seen the PowerPoint presentations, and you should have a list of your questions ready on your notebook, so that you can actually make maximum of our virtual sessions. Okay, now I would like you to be honest with me. How many of you didn't see the recorded lectures? How many of you could not see the recorded lectures? Is there anyone brave enough to speak? Well, you all watched recorded lectures. I'm really glad to hear that. But
मैम कैन यू टेल अस दैट अगला हमारा जो नेक्स्ट टॉपिक होगा कौन सा मॉडल हम पढ़ेंगे नेक्स्ट?
Sure, Laiba. Very good. I'm so glad that you asked me question. No, everyone was silent and I was feeling awkward. Thank you. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Okay. So I was thinking, well, maybe people are sleeping or what's wrong? I don't understand. Okay, yeah. Laiba, I think you joined a little late. And before that, I had already explained. For this week, we are going to discuss the model, a very interesting model. It's called diffusion of innovation. I'll talk about that shortly. So, yeah, this is what we are doing for this week. And when you came, or maybe before you came, I was talking about the first assignment for the semester, and I was saying that very soon I'm going to give you questions for which you will have to write answers and then send them to me within 5 6 days. Now, um, for that exam, this model that we will discuss, that we will cover this week, diffusion of innovation, is really, really important. And of course, if you have any question, you can ask me after you see the recorded lectures, and after you read the PDF notes, you can ask me questions when we meet again for our virtual session next week. Now there is another student in the waiting room. Okay. So diffusion of innovation is, what is innovation? Can anyone tell what is innovation? I am writing the word in the chat box. INNOVATION. What is innovation?
I'm introducing the new ideas.
Very good. Very, innovation is something new. Now, what
Creating some-
is technology? Very good. Alina wrote something new and creative. Is technology innovation? The new cell phones, the new cell phones. If there is, let's say, a new model of iPhone or a new model of MacBook, is that innovation?
Yes.
Yes, that is. Laiba also wrote, Laiba Hassan wrote that new method, new product is innovation. Sometimes it happens that, uh, I mean, when we talk about diffusion of innovation, we are talking about the idea that how does an innovation diffuse? What is the meaning of diffusion? Can anyone tell me? Diffuse. Okay, diffusion. The word diffusion comes from the word diffuse. I'll write it in the chat box. Diffuse. Its meaning is, um, excuse me, I just wrote it to Bilal. Okay, I just wrote the word diffuse in the chat box. Diffuse meaning is to spread widely. So diffusion of innovation is how innovations are diffused. Does it make sense? And do you agree to this idea that media plays strongest role in the diffusion of innovation? How do you come to know that, oh, there is a new model of this television, there is a new
Ma'am,
product of this clothing item? Yeah, go ahead.
yes, ma'am. Through advertisements
Mm-hmm. Very good.
in at different forums of media like print media, electronic media, social
Mhm.
media.
Very good. So, do we all agree to this idea that media has a significant role in the diffusion of innovation? Do we all agree to that? Like, innovations are diffused, innovations are spread because of media. Okay? So this is what the model says: diffusion of innovations, how new things, new technologies are diffused in society. Sometimes it also happens that uh, there are innovations but they are not diffused properly, and there are several reasons for that. We'll talk about that in the recorded lecture. I will talk about that, but just to give you an idea. So we all know that instead of reading a physical copy of a newspaper, nowadays you can also read an online copy. You do not have to buy a physical copy, right? You just get the subscription of newspaper and you can read the whole newspaper. Do we all agree to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now you see, um, even in, I mean, just think about our social structure, our social setup, and everything. It happens that there are people who are comfortable with physical copies of newspaper, who do not want to buy sorry, who are comfortable with physical copies, they, although they have smartphones, although they have all the gadgets, laptops, iPads and everything, they do not want to read newspapers uh, in their online versions. So which means that I mean, there is the diffusion of innovation is happening, but the process is very, very slow. The innovation is, of course, the e-version of newspaper. It is not diffused properly. Now, let me give you another example, and I'll quote both these examples in my recorded lectures as well. Some people say that laptops and technology is actually diminishing books. Like, people actually do not need to buy books. You can have a soft copy of a book in your gadget and you can read it there. But again, personally, I am a kind of person who likes to have a physical copy of a book, because the idea of carrying a book in my hands and then reading it and then annotating it and then highlighting the text, writing comments and everything, it's a kind of I mean,
It's
I
an
feel.
essence of a book, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
That's an essence of a book.
Yes, I agree. But you know what? I can. I mean, I don't have proper space at my home or in my office to stack up books. Also, when I was studying in United States, I was doing my PhD. I love my books so much, and whenever I would buy a book, I would think that, will I be able to take this book with me when I return to my country? Because the airline allows you to take only 2 bags, right? And if I fill them up with books weigh too much. And I would always be wary of this fact, that what would I do? I of course I wouldn't like the idea of throwing away my books. And for that very reason, I mean, that was a kind of restriction that I had, that okay, I wouldn't like to throw away my books. For that reason, sometimes I would buy a soft copy of a book, or I would ask library to give me a soft copy. But otherwise, I am a kind of person that likes the idea of having a physical copy of a book. And it's, I mean, you see, diffusion of innovation is happening. In my case, um, it's, even I cannot say that it's slow. It is not slow, but I have my choices and I have my own style of comfort, like how I feel comfortable. So yeah, it's a very, in that sense, diffusion of innovation model is very, very interesting, and it's one of my favorites. There is another person in the waiting room. Let me allow him in. So yeah, so it's a very interesting model, and you will enjoy listening to the recorded lecture, I'm sure. And I'm sure you will enjoy um, reading about it as well. I am, if I am if I am spelling correctly, okay, I just wrote a name in the chat box. This is the person who proposed this model, Everett Rogers. And he proposed this model, if I'm not mistaken, in 1962, but I have to recheck the year. He wrote a book, Diffusion of Innovation. That was the name of the book. So the model that we are actually going to discuss next is based on a book. And of course, I cannot cover the whole book in just um, uh, 30 minutes, 40 minutes long lecture. And also at your stage, you do not have to read the whole book. Essentially, I'll share notes with you from Dennis McQuill's book. The purpose is to familiarize you with this model. Any other questions?
So, ma'am, basically, the formation of electronic and print media is an innovation in itself because, firstly, the news was transmitted through radio. That was the first the most the way means of technology. It was the
Yes.
most innovative thing at that time. So we can say right now the social media and electronic media are basically the innovation, and it's diffusing the information to us. So is that how we're going to portray the idea?
Yes, you are very close. I am glad that you shared your understanding. But you see, although this model talks about powerful effects of media, it does entail the differences between people. So each person is different. Each person has different choices. Excuse me. I request, I think this is Aisha Abbas Jima. I just muted her device. Yeah. Okay. Please make sure when you appear in the virtual meeting, please make sure that you mute your mics because if you have background noise, it can be distracting and disturbing for all participants. I'll come to your point, Laiba, in a minute. Let me answer Zamreen. She has written a question in the chat box. So she has written that, will you be uploading recorded lectures 2 times a week? Zamreen, yes.
Yeah, ये ना इस तरह से टूटी है कि
Zamreen, you got your answer, right? Hello. Zamreen, are you with me? Okay. So, Zamreen, ideally, yes, I will try my best to record lectures 2 times a week, but sometimes I do not know. Sometimes it happens that recording on a single lecture may take longer than I anticipate. Does it make sense? So in that case, I mean, it depends on the pace of it depends on my pace, and it also depends on how you actually respond to the lectures that I am uploading. Okay, now I'll come back to Laiba. Laiba, your understanding is pretty close to what I have said about diffusion of innovation. The only thing is that while discussing diffusion of innovation model, Everett Rogers considers that people are different. For example, my choices and my wants and my perceptions are different from your perceptions being a human. And then he says that there are some people who can be early adopters of innovations, and then there can be people who can be late adopters of innovations. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so he talks about that subjective approach to the diffusion of innovation process. And I'll again, this is an example that is coming in my mind, and I'll talk about that example again when I record my lecture and I upload it on Moodle. So I'll give the example of my father. I think he's the best. I mean, whenever I discuss this model or read this model, he always comes in my mind. My father, he reads newspaper daily, no matter what. The first thing he wakes up in the morning is reading newspaper. And uh, he has a smartphone. He has other gadgets as well. And I mean, all my siblings and myself, we have many times we try to convince him that you do not need to buy a newspaper. You do not need to pay for this copy that we receive every day. Why don't you read it on any device? And he doesn't agree to that. He says, no, I like having my copy of newspaper on my breakfast table. And even when he was visiting me in the US, when I was graduating, my parents came to US to attend my graduation ceremony. And of course, we didn't have Nawai Waqt and Jung that he is fond of. We didn't have these newspapers in the US. So I would always open up any version of this newspaper on an iPad for him, and I'll ask him to read it. And he would say, well, yeah, I don't get that kind of comfort, and I don't get that kind of feeling that I would reading a physical copy of the newspaper. So I would say my father is an example of a late adopter when it comes to the process of diffusion of innovation. Does it kind of give you an idea, Laiba?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear now.
Okay, very good. I'm glad to hear that. My time is running out. I just received a message that I have only 8 minutes left. I'll leave this time for you to ask questions if you have any. Anyone else? All right, if not, then I'll let you all go and I'll actually note your names for your attendance. Give me a minute. Okay. So I have Alina Moazzam. I have Aisha Abbas Chima. I have Irtaza Rahman.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have Kamran. Kamran, what's your full name?
Kamran.
Okay, it's Kamran. Okay. I have Ali. Go ahead, Kamran. Go ahead. That's it. I have Alina Moazzam.
Ma'am, Kamran Bakar.
Ma'am, me, Laiba Ihsan.
Yes, ma'am.
Kamran, say it one more time, your full name. Okay. And then I have Laiba Ehsan. I have Laiba Hussain. I have Laiba Kassar. I have Maheen Rafiq. How are you, Maheen? I have Malik Abdullah Evan.
I'm good, ma'am.
Good, good. I have Mariam Anis. I have Muhammad Bilal Afzal.
Yes, ma'am.
I have Safa Zahid and Sakha Zafar and Zamreen Bloch. Okay, I'll go over the names one more time and let me know if I miss anyone. I have Alina Moazzam, Aisha Abbas Chima, Irtaza Rahman, Kamran, Laiba Ehsan, Laiba Hussain, Laiba Kassar, Maheen Rafiq, Malik Abdullah Evan, Mariam Anis, Bilal Afzal, Safa Zahid, Sakha Zafar, and Zamreen Baloch. Did I miss anyone? And there is another person coming right now, just 5 minutes before the end of the class. His name is Afaq Umar. Okay, did I miss anyone? Students, today I got this impression that except for a couple of students, the rest of you maybe did not watch the lectures. And it's just my assumption that it can be wrong. For this reason, I did not have active participation of my students. I highly recommend that before you come to our virtual session next Tuesday, please make sure you have watched the lectures and you have seen, you have read the notes, all right?
Okay, ma'am.
And Afaq, please try to come early next time. Okay, I'll let you all leave now and I'll upload this recording of this session on Moodle. All right, I'll see you next Tuesday.
Allah Hafiz, ma'am.
Allah Hafiz, Allah
Allah
Hafiz.
Hafiz, ma'am.
Allah Hafiz, thank
Allah
you.
Hafiz, ma'am.
Okay, ji, Allah Hafiz.